What's up, YouTube? I'm Robert, and this is the Biker Channel B1. Today, we're on the 25th episode of the Biker Bar. What is the Biker Bar? For those of you guys that don't know, maybe you guys are new. Oh man, I am hearing myself in the background. That is really distracting. Anyways, give me a second to get myself together. Here we go. So those of you guys that don't know what the Biker Bar is, the Biker Bar is a long format kind of podcast style interview with people in the industry. It's every Sunday at 5 p.m. PST. And here we are. This Sunday is going to be Cushcore. So before we get started, we got the biker advertisement hour is what we're going to call it today. And I just want to remind you guys all to please subscribe and support the channel. That means a lot to see that subscriber count go up. If you enjoy this content or the POV content that I put out, definitely hit that subscribe button. It's a little thing for you to do, but it means a lot to me. As far as the other ways that you can support the channel, you can hit that thumbs up button. The more times that thumbs up button is hitting, God, that's like a tongue twister for me today. The more times that's hitting, the more that YouTube is like, hey man, this guy knows what he's doing, or people actually like it, and then it makes the secret algorithm soup work. So that's good. I want to mention to you guys that I do have a Facebook and an Instagram. It's at Biker B1, so at B1KER B1. For some reason, Facebook does not grow the way that Instagram does. I opened them both at the same time. Facebook has like a little over 500. Instagram is like ticking on, like knocking on 2000's door right now. So let's see if we can make the Facebook one grow. And if you don't like Facebook, you hate Facebook, just go to Instagram, do that. There's a lot of extra content comes over there. So you can kind of keep up with that stuff and see what's going on. If you dig the hat that I'm wearing today, it's pretty sharp actually. Little black hat, got a flag on it and a little Tasco emblem on the top corner where the stars would be on an American flag. This is called the Black Market hat, and it's available over at TascoMTB.com. Check them out if you guys haven't heard of them before. They got great gloves and dig their hats. They got some cool shirts and stuff like that too. So definitely and they were on the Biker Bar a few months. I don't know. It was a long time ago. It could have been 3 episodes ago, but that feels like forever ago to me. So let's get back to the task at hand here. We have Dan from Cushcore. Hey Dan, can you give us a little hello?
Hello.
Yeah. Right on, man. What's new in Cushcore?
Oh, new. So let's see. I mean, we're still a new company, but things are growing and rocking and rolling, and we're super excited coming into this new season. We're got a lot of professional teams on UCI and downhill and EWS that are going to be officially running Cushcore. Kind of the last 2 years they've been running it a little bit under the table, but this year we're looking forward to getting a little bit more awareness that how many guys actually use this product. And so we're stoked. We moved into a new business building back in, I think, end of July, August, to just, balance our growth.
So whenever I was up there, that was a brand new building that you guys just moved into.
Yeah.
Let's take a step back too. Sure. I just realized I didn't ask you. Let's talk about what is Cushcore, because I just make the assumption that everybody in the mountain biking world knows what Cushcore is, but let's go ahead and give it a little explanation.
Yeah. Actually, that we live it every day. So we have the same, misconception that everybody already knows about it. But what Cushcore is, it's a engineered foam insert designed to be used with tubeless setup on mountain bike tires. So it has a few benefits. The obvious benefit is that the Cushcore is going to protect the rim from big impacts, but that wasn't the main reason that it was designed. It was designed as a performance enhancement, and many times we describe it as it solves the tire pressure dilemma. So mountain bikers like to run low tire pressure to get, compliant tread patch, good traction, good absorption on the small impacts, but low tire pressure is really squirmy and rolly. It's easy to burp, it's easy to pinch flat, etc. And so if you're an aggressive rider, you tend to run high tire pressure. Well, high tire pressure, yeah, it's stable, but it produces a terrible ride. It's like a, think about it as like a rubber ball. It's just super bouncy. It doesn't absorb or dampen any of those impacts. So
Yeah, I totally know where you're coming from there. I mean,
yeah,
honestly, I'm a big dude, so I've always run really high tire pressures. So it
yeah,
wasn't until like honestly until tubeless came out and the side of the bottle or the tire or whatever it was that I was doing the first time I did tubeless, and it said like max PSI 40, and I was like, that's like 20 less than what I use. It was like, I don't
that's
know what I'm
funny.
gonna
Yeah,
do. And I think actually I was using like 50, but anyways, either way, I mean, it was considerably different. So I mean, I started there and then ended up kind of backing down, but with the idea of being able to go lower than where I'm at right now, it just definitely sounds good.
yeah, yeah, and and it's having that sidewall support. I mean, there's other tire inserts out there, but ours is the only one, and it's part of our patent that it, ours is sort of shaped like a wedge. So it pushes against the sidewall and you get the stiff sidewall even at low tire pressure. So it just creates a stable ride, and it kind of becomes a unit with the tire casing, and dampens vibration and I mean a host of other benefits. But that's the thing with Cushcore is it's not only about pinch flats, or it's not only about protecting your rim. It does that, but once you ride it, you'll realize that, man, there's a slew of other benefits that it just, that's why we call it tire suspension or inner tire suspension system. You have this damper at the wheel, so you're absorbing energy or impacts without the suspension even having to move. Um, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we go on and geek out about all the data and everything we have. I'm sure we'll get to that, but yeah.
Yeah, and like you guys have some pretty cool graphics that show like on your website, cushcore.com, that show the wheel kind of rolling and the stability on the sidewall, which it really makes sense, and I think we've all had that happen when you have your tire pressure too low, or maybe you got a flat that's leaking or something like that, and you feel that like in the corners, that wheel just rolling over. Or
Yeah.
like for me, it's like I always use tires that have like really thick sidewalls,
Sure.
and I've tried a lighter weight tire before, and I feel that feeling instantly, and it definitely like it's like, well, this is crap, so
Yeah.
to see something that would actually change the performance of the tire, I would imagine it really helps cornering. Like do you guys have some kind of data that has anything to do with like the
Yeah, yeah, and in fact, I mean, we have our sister company is we do dirt bike suspension tuning, and for that company, we have a electromagnetic suspension dyno, and we hooked it up with a tire with Cushcore and without, and what we found, analyzing that lateral pressure, is that actually reduces tire roll by 25%. That's huge. And I mean, for me, I didn't invent the product. I ran into Adam. That's another story. And he's the inventor of the product. And, I saw it at first like, that's interesting. But when I wrote it, the biggest revelation for me was that cornering performance, because I, I I just felt like mountain bikes were always sketchy because of that tire roll, and then I always ran too higher tire pressure, so you get terrible traction with high tire pressure. But with Cushcore, you can kind of balance those things out, and man, the cornering performance, let alone smashing into rocks and hucking the flat and all that, that wasn't really my pain point as a mountain biker. Mine was more about cornering, and for me personally, that's the biggest improvement. But
did you come from somewhere in the past? Were you in the bike industry then, or were you in the moto
no,
industry?
so previously I worked at Honda R&D in their motorcycle division
Oh,
doing
okay.
product development. So I mean, I've been a mountain biker and a dirt biker and BMX rider basically my whole life.
Uh-huh.
um, and so I was in the moto industry. And I mean, the story is basically I decided to move out of LA and move to Bend, basically for mountain biking. And my wife and I we pulled the trigger. And I was lucky enough to run into Adam, and he needed help with the craft moto business. And all he told me at the time was like, I have this mountain bike product that I want to launch, and I need help launching it. And that was enough for me to jump on board. And
Right.
I mean, we made the leap. I took a huge pay cut, and but it's all worth it. And not looking back, it's been awesome ride. And Adam is yeah, he's like a suspension genius, and that's what Cushcore comes from a suspension engineer's mind. And yeah, so
When I came up there, that was one of the things that or one of the things that really surprised me is I show up, to your building, and I think I asked you guys the night before, hey, I'm going to be in Bend. Do you mind if I swing by? And I walked up and there's like all these motorcycles in there. I'm like, what is going on here, man? I had no idea that you guys had this other side of your business, What is it that the motorcycle, what is the moto thing that you guys are doing?
Yeah, it's called Creft Moto,
Uh-huh.
and we do performance suspension tuning. So it's all and our niche is we focus on WP suspension. That's the brand of suspension, and that is what's found on KTM and Husqvarna motorcycles. And we only concentrate on bikes that we know ride and race, and so that's off-road performance and motocross bikes. That's what we concentrate on, and so we don't do adventure bikes or street bikes or anything like that. We're focused on those performance dirt bikes, because that's what we do. And when we're not doing that, we're riding mountain bikes, and when we're not riding mountain bikes, we're riding dirt bikes. And so it's kind of we're lucky enough to have the two companies that can run out of the same facility. Largely the staff is split, but certainly Adam and I.
It's all us and them. It's like all the mountain bikers on one side of the break room, and all
It's not like that, no. But yeah, I mean, it's just most employees are dedicated to one company, but Adam and I split our time for sure between the two, and there's crossover as well. But we definitely, it's a complementary business, and eventually we will make Cushcore for motorbikes as well. I mean, taking a way step back, that's where Adam started developing the product first, and then just had a epiphany that, man, this is like perfect for mountain bikes. And his background starts in mountain biking anyway, so yeah, so
so the product, a lot of people will refer to it as some kind of save my wheel kind of product, and
right.
and I remember mentioning that those of you guys that aren't on my Patreon, and sometimes I have some content that's on there that is never released to the public. And whenever I went up to Bend, I did some interviews with Cushcore. I did some interviews with a couple other companies that are in Bend. Apparently Bend is like a hot spot for mountain biking companies, and I had a interview with them at Cushcore that I had put up on Patreon, and I just never turned it into a regular public cut. There was a couple of reasons. We'll get into those some other day. But nonetheless, really it just came down to, I had this great idea I wanted to talk to Cushcore about, and I haven't done that yet. But now I got him on here. He's stuck to listen to me. No, but so anyways, while I was talking to Adam, the founder of Cushcore, that was one of the things that he said that really kind of caught my attention, was like, this is not a wheel protection device. He's like, that's like a side effect, and I remember asking him, what do you think about people that just put it in one tire? And if you would have saw the look on his face, guys, I mean, seriously, if he could almost strangled me for just even asking the question, he would have thought about it. But you could see the passion. You could see that as what Dan was saying a minute ago about him being a real suspension engineer. It would just be like, well, you mind if I take one of my wheels off my car? You think that would be okay?
Right. Yeah, that's a trigger point for him too, for sure. I mean, it's designed as a system. It's designed to be used in both wheels, and so we get frustrated when guys like, I only get flats in the rear, or I only have damage on my rear, and we're like, well, you're missing more than half of the product. I mean, you know, I'd almost argue, like, I always use this as a little bit hyperbole, but I would run it in the front only if I had to choose.
Right. I mean, I was just thinking,
for the
yeah,
cornering, and
yeah,
you can lead with your front wheel, and when you're not worried about smashing with your
yeah.
front,
Yeah, it's
then
funny that you said that, because that was the first thing that came to my mind too. I was like, well, on the front wheel, it's kind of like your front brake takes all the pressure. Like your front wheel is really taking that corner, and
exactly.
I would definitely want it there.
Yep. Yeah, but that is, but we're, it's a new product, and the brand and product awareness is still growing, as you mentioned at the beginning. I mean, it blew up last year for sure. It's huge. I mean, and at the end of 2017, we got the Vital Shreddy Award as the product of the year, and things are growing and building in the right direction. And we have some new product coming out this year, that more applications, I should say. Details TBD, but the we're still pushing that message out there. And I think once people understand it, Kenny, he's our sales guy. He always uses this analogy. It's like the dropper post at first, right? People is like, what do you want me to add weight in my
Right.
seat post, and I have to hook up these cables. It's hard to hook up, and it's weight, and why do I need that? Well, now
Yeah, and they're like, everybody's always like, yeah, dude, I never needed that. I've been riding bikes since the 90s. Like, what the
right.
hell?
And then now every mountain bike comes with one, right?
Yeah. At my job, I do IT, and for my day job. And I remember there's been some few things that I like tried to pitch to people that initially they just wanted to have nothing to do with. One of them was like smartphones. I remember sitting in this like board meeting and being like, look, guys, you'll be able to do this. You're going to be able to get your email on your phone. You're going to be able to sit at your daughter's freaking softball game and like plow through some stuff real quick that would have took you a bunch of time when you're at the office, and you can be more productive. And I remember every person in that room just looked at me and was like, that would be horrible. There was like 2 people that were like, oh, that sounds good. And it's like all of those same people, like 10 years later, were like, they're the ones coming in like, my screen has a crack on it. If this isn't fixed in like an hour, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah.
So no, I can totally see what you're saying about, your product and how its recognition is growing. Cause it's really strange. I saw you in North Star earlier this year, whenever Interbike was around. In town, and it was, I was watching you like talk to people and explain the product, and to me it was like, how do they not know about this? It's just interesting to me. You still have people coming up and they're like, what's this thing?
Yeah. No, I know. And but we're out there, plugging away, and that's what it takes. We're a new product, we're a new company, and it's only a couple years old, and things are going in the right direction. And I mean, I think about when the whole tubeless thing came out. People are like, what, you want me to remove my tube and put the sealant, what, tape up my rim, what? And that was a big leap for people also. And then now any like real mountain bike is tubeless.
Right.
So I think, I think our product is going to have a similar path.
So, where I just totally lost my train of thought there. We'll just go ahead and switch gears anyway. So you have this thing in your wheel, and that does raise your rotational weight. And I know I've heard the answer to this question already, but I think it's good that people hear it.
Sure.
So what's the trade-off that you hear, that you tell to people whenever they talk about that?
Yeah. So there's kind of 2 replies to that. One is, because you've protected your rim and you have that lateral stability that I described, you can run a lighter weight tire. So you can offset some of that weight by choosing a lighter weight tire. Plus, a lighter weight tire is going to have a more compliant tread patch, which is good for traction and initial absorption of small impacts. And then the other thing is, we actually we sent some Cushcore to a company in Finland that does basically rolling resistance testing. They're called Wheel Energy. And they found that like on a rough surface, Cushcore actually reduced rolling resistance. And the reason is in a vacuum on a perfectly flat, smooth surface, yeah, higher tire pressure would reduce rolling resistance. But on a rough surface, every obstacle that you hit is pushing back on that wheel. So yeah, there's a lot of data on our website about this, but without getting it into much, having that damping effect at the tire without the suspension even having to move actually reduces rolling resistance. So it's counterintuitive to a lot of people's initial thoughts on rolling resistance, but yeah, those are the two things. And really, we have a lot of riders that were worried about weight, and once they install it and ride it, they're like, it's not a concern.
Most people that I know that have used it, there's one common like theme, like, man, this thing is a bitch to put on, and then outside of that though, like they all want to continue using it. So I've seen some marathon install videos go up online, but I mean, definitely like all those people, regardless of that, whether or not it's that's the case. Because check this out, guys. That video, if you guys are on my Patreon, that video that I put up, I watched a dude at Cushcore put one on a brand new tire with a brand new tire in 3 minutes. So like, it's definitely like, it's a skill to be had,
Yeah. I mean, there's a technique. It's really, the people that struggle, they're doing it wrong. That's just it. They're probably working against themselves. Kind of the key technique is pushing that bead down into the rim center, right? And that relieves the tension. So if you're like trying to use a tire lever and giant force, and you're wanting to grab like a foot long tire lever, well then you're doing it wrong, and you're missing that critical step of just pushing that bead down. Like once you get it started, you just keep going back and keep pushing that bead down, and then when you get to the tight spot, it'll pop right on. Yeah, and the
I
Cushcore,
honestly didn't believe it. I mean, Adam was the guy I was talking to. That's the founder. He said he could do it in 2 minutes. I tried to put him on the spot. He wasn't going to bite, but one of the other guys jumped up and was like, "I'll do it." And it took him 3 minutes. And I think I even told him I'd give him a 30-second. Like I should be saying 2.5 minutes, because I kind of like started talking to him about something in the middle of it. And so yeah, no, it's definitely interesting to see.
So yeah, then we got like a little cheeky sticker in our box. It's like, hey, don't do it your way, do it our way, right? Watch our video. And I think if you do watch the video, you follow the steps, and you kind of understand it once you have the technique, it's pretty simple. Now, having said that, I will admit there's certain rim and tire combinations that are tighter than others, and it takes more effort, but
Yeah.
but that's it's not insurmountable. And if anybody out there, if you're ever struggling and this thing's impossible, just call us and we'll talk you through it. No problem. Because usually what happens, we do get those calls, and usually what it is they're just missing that one step or some technique that they get stuck on, and they're like, if they call and we can explain it, that it's usually no problem.
Definitely. There's a lifespan to the insert as well, right?
Yeah, eventually, right? It's like tires, right? Tires have a lifespan, but it's totally dependent on your riding style, your terrain, your air pressure, your body size, etc., right?
Mm-hmm.
But for sure, regardless of who you are, the Cushcore is going to last several tire changes at least, right?
Mm-hmm. So for the average guy that changes his tire probably every 6 months or something like that.
Oh,
he's probably gonna get a couple years out of it then.
Yeah, you're gonna probably get a couple years out of Cushcore for sure. And
And how would you know yours was worn out? You just like, it just like you look at it and just falls right onto the rim. You're like,
so
oh, okay.
so like so some of the pro teams, I mean, for an average guy, it would be totally useful still, but some of the pro teams, like especially like a downhill team, what will happen is that they're riding so hard and taking so many hits. There's like, you'll see it on the Cushcore, like the bites that it's received. There's like these marks on it, and I mean, once that insert's like chock full of those, they replace them. I would still run it as like a normal human being.
Yeah.
And but that's one thing. And then the other thing would be after a while, like a tire too, the bead is going to relax a bit, and you're just going to lose that tightness. And having that tightness against the rim is giving you that performance, that lateral stability, and protecting the rim. But even a loose Cushcore is going to do some of its job, like protect the rim. But you just, after a while, that if it gets too loose, then that might be a time to replace it. But I mean, it like I said, most people, you're not going to see a need to replace it for a couple years.
Yeah. So I saw somebody in the chat say something like, oh, well, I don't really pinch flat that much, so I don't think I need it. Or if I had carbon wheels, maybe somebody else, if I had carbon wheels, I'd use that to like protect them. And my first instinct when I saw it was like, you're not getting it. Like it really changes the cornering like tremendously. I think that's the biggest thing that people maybe they're continuing to think about it just being the wheel saver, but really changes the cornering, and it really changes even how much suspension you could potentially use. Because you told me about something I want to lead into that.
Sure.
And I think that one thing, a lot of guys that watch my channel, they're big dudes too. And whenever I like started hearing about this product and the way that it changes that way that wheel, the tire actually reacts, I was like, man, this is a no-brainer for bigger guys.
Yeah.
Like there are so many things like with the way that the wheel acts with a dude that's over 200 pounds on it, that I mean, they're not engineered for guys our size. If they were, the sidewalls would be way thicker and, stuff like that. The knobbies would be bigger or something like, we'd look like moto tires on a mountain bike.
Yeah.
But so you guys recently had a study done. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. There's a company that's kind of launching. They're sort of in their early stage, but they're called Motion Instruments. And Rob there, he's developed some data acquisition equipment specifically designed for mountain bikes, and it's pretty sophisticated and really cool. So they approached us, and
hang on a second. Like,
yes.
Just to I know when you explained that part to me, I was a little bit lost. So essentially, they have some sensor type of obviously we can't talk about exactly what their product is, but they have something that's like what's that doohickey that people have been buying to hook up with their suspension and tells them like how to tune in whatever.
Yeah. So this is that product is kind of measures the air pressure change. This is actual like a piece of hardware that it's like picture a smaller, like on the fork, it's like picture kind of a smaller fork that mounts next to it. And so what it's doing is it's measuring the suspension travel, it's measuring the speed, it's measuring the forces, and then he also mounts an accelerometer on the head tube, which measures G-force impacts. Right.
So is it just the fork, or does it do something similar on the rear suspension as well?
Well, in this test, we just did the fork and the head tube.
Okay, cool.
And that's what we were using. And so he took a couple riders up to Downeyville, and they did, I think it's about 14-mile, descent. Mostly down. If you know Downeyville, it's not.
Yeah, I think it's something like 5,000 feet of elevation loss or something like that. It's just an amazing ride.
Yeah, it's pretty fast and pretty choppy, and So what they found is that in that 15-mile ride, they did a test with Cushcore and without Cushcore, and both riders, two riders, they tried to take the same lines and take the same speed. So they weren't trying to go faster on one or the other. They wanted to see what the effect was of Cushcore. And so what they found, what the data showed, is that for one, the suspension used 16% less travel. So think about that over cumulatively over a 15-mile ride. The suspension's moving 15% less, and that means that's because Cushcore is absorbing that impact at the surface, right? So in effect, you could think of like that's like a 150 millimeter travel bike is going to feel like a 173 millimeter travel bike. So because you have that suspension element at the tire. The other thing that was really extraordinary was that, like I said, they had an accelerometer on the head tube, and the G forces measured were reduced by 12%. So over a 15-mile ride, the rider is experiencing 12% less G force. That's
So
less
that's going to
fatigue,
be less fatigue on your hands and your body
your
in general.
body,
And
and you're just feeling less impact. You're feeling 12% less impact.
I can definitely say, I mean, I've ridden the hell out of Donnyville. I do an event up there every year with the channel now too, and that trail will definitely beat the shit out of you if you want it to.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
definitely to see that kind of change on a. I mean, first of all, like 16% is just amazing. I mean, honestly, it's like you think about that whenever you have your sag already, you're sagging
Right.
at 25 or 30% or something like that. So, how much more suspension do you have left after that, and yeah, the suspension has to go both ways. But so like that in itself is just that actually just really surprises me to hear that number. And then the G forces on top of it. I mean, I'm over 40. I tell you what, I could use less G forces everywhere.
Yeah, well, and like you said, I mean, at the end of the day, like most of us are riding mountain bikes because they're super fun, and the more control you have, the faster you can go. The faster you can go and control, it equals more fun. I mean, that's the way I look at it, and I just think Cushcore really helps that aspect, just like full suspension did for when it came into the market.
I just got this new hardtail. Do you ride a full suspension or you ride a hardtail?
I ride full suspension at the moment. Yeah.
So I haven't had a hardtail since the 90s when that was the only thing that they had, right? Actually, it was a fully rigid bike then. So
yeah, sure.
And so whatever reason, I guess I'm like a sadomasochist or something like that. I decide to hang my Bronson up on the wall and buy this Chameleon. And it can do the 27.5 plus wheels. And the first thing that I was thinking was like, if I get those 27.5 plus wheels, that's going to give me a lot more cushion.
Sure.
And then if I can get the Cushcore in there as well and have like that, pseudo 18% of suspension, I mean, it'll really change the way that a hardtail rides,
Yeah. No, certainly. I mean, and there's a lot of guys out there that's what they're doing. I mean, hardtail has its place for sure. They're
I'll tell you what, man,
fun and
yeah. I honestly did not think that I was going to like the bike as much as I do.
Yeah.
It was more of a like, I mean, I think this will be a fun thing to do and I can work on this X, Y, and Z skills with it. But I mean, even just yesterday, I took it out to Auburn, which is like my local spot. And it's not, super chunky everywhere. But, in the past I've been riding that place for, I don't know, I've been riding it for like over 10 years now, 12 years, something like that. It's always been on a full squishy bike. So it was definitely like, okay, what's this going to be like?
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing too. Like you mentioned, I don't know, I'm kind of jumping topics, but
yeah, no, go for it, dude.
The other thing that I wanted to mention is like, and it's related to the hardtail is that it's sort of difficult to describe, but once you ride it, you feel it, is because it's pushing against the sidewall. It becomes a unit with the tire casing. And then the Cushcore acts as a damper. So it's not even just the big hit, right? It's that it will reduce that vibration. So on choppy terrain, like we call, high, low amplitude, high frequency impacts, chatter, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Cushcore just calms that down and smooths that ride out. It's amazing. I mean, like, we travel quite a bit going to mountain bike events, and sometimes we can't bring our own bike, so we'll demo bikes or rent a bike or something, and when we ride something that doesn't have Cushcore, we're just like, oh my gosh, I need Cushcore again. I can't even ride a bike without it. Obviously you can, but anyway, it's one of those things. I mean, it's not even just our bias, it's just that it's funny once you ride it and get used to it, and then you ride a bike without it, it's like you notice it right away, especially on choppy terrain.
So I'm sure this is one of your common questions. This was another one of those moments that Adam wanted to choke me, but I asked it, and I just saw it pop up in the comment section here too. And so the guy's asking, so why not just use a closed cell foam or a pool noodle?
So this is a closed cell foam, okay?
Uh-huh.
And a closed cell foam, and so that's why we always describe it as an engineered foam insert.
Mm-hmm.
Ours is manufactured in a mold, so it's contiguous. There's no seam. You don't have to zip tie it together. And the shape is very important. That wedge shape is engineered.
Yeah, it's definitely different than, I mean, there are some other people's products that are more round. They definitely don't have the shape that you guys have, that where I can really buy into the sidewall, like stiffening properties,
And then lastly, the foam, like I said, we came at it from a suspension approach. The compression and rebound damping characteristics are engineered into it. It's not a pool noodle. If you took a pool noodle and you took a hammer and hit it a couple times, it's going to pop and destroy. You could take a hammer and repeatedly beat a Cushcore, nothing's going to happen to it.
I actually watched Adam do that. He's like, no, you got to see this.
Yeah. I'm glad you got to meet Adam. Yeah.
He beat the shit out of that thing, man. And I'm telling you, the Cushcore, and like, you couldn't even see a divot in it. Like it was pretty surprising.
I mean, and that's the other thing too, is like at events, like you said, there's a lot of people at these events that never heard of it, never saw it, or maybe they heard of it but never saw it, and they come up to our booth, and a lot of times the first question, well, what does it weigh? I just hand them one. Mm-hmm. And when they grab it, usually it's like, wow, that's not at all what I thought it would feel like. For one, weight wise, it's way lighter than I thought it would feel like. And then the material itself, they're usually surprised at the characteristic of the foam itself. It's quite unique, and you can feel it. The like I described, the compression and damping characteristic of the foam itself has been tuned into that product.
Yeah, I remember Adam saying something that was just like, I don't know, I'm probably overstating it, maybe I'm understating it. Just like hundreds of different foams that he was like testing out and working with. I think you guys work with like 3M or something like that to get it, or
no, not
how it's
3M.
manufactured, or
so anyway,
some foam company like, hey, I want it to be like this. Nope, that way didn't work. And like, it wasn't like he just went out and was like, yeah, just give me some stuff, put it in this shape, and I'll charge everybody whatever the hell I want,
I mean, he spent 3 years getting the foam just right.
Yeah, that's definitely some attention to detail. I don't think I could do anything for 3 years before I released it.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the other common questions that you get whenever you're sitting there at the booth and people are walking up?
I mean, I think, how do you install it? How long does it last? What's it weigh?
Mm-hmm. It's funny that we're all concerned about how much it weighs, but honestly, like the weight of it is so small. Like there's a million other things that I could think about. Like the size of my belly. Like a lot of times when I hear people talking about weight on products, I'm like, just looking, I'm like, dude, honestly, you could eat like one less cheeseburger. How about shave your legs and you actually save those grams that you just spend another like $400 on, like it's like,
Yeah, I mean, but it's like part of the cycling culture is that counting grams, and some guys are more sensitive to it than others for sure. And some types of riding it's more important than others. But the current product we have now is it's designed for trail to downhill, right? It's it can cover a broad range, but maybe in the future we'll have other niches of product that have different weights and different performance characteristics.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Do you guys right now the wheel sizes you guys do is just 27.5 and 29 or like
No, so we actually have 26.
I was gonna ask that actually.
Well,
That's funny you say that.
honestly, like at first we weren't gonna launch 26, but when we first promoted the product, there was a ton of guys that were just like, oh, you gotta make 26. My downhill bike's a 26, and don't forget about us and this and that. And so we made it, and compared to the other sizes, it sells a lot less. But think about how many 26ers are out there, right?
Yeah, man, there's other people still rocking them.
So
not a bad bike.
No,
my best time in Downeyville is still on my 26-inch bike.
Yeah.
I went up there with my Bronson, thought I was going to smash that shit and still didn't get it.
But yeah, we have 26, 27.5, and 29, and then 27.5 plus currently. And like I mentioned, in the next like month or so, we'll be announcing a couple new products. So yeah, watch for that.
Is that something that would work with BMX? I mean, I've been so far out of it. Like, I mean, I guess they still do like BMX. They still do like dirt kind of racing as well, right?
Oh yeah. I mean those tracks are so different. It's they're almost paved, and some of them are right like a true BMX racing. I think it would help like with the cornering, but that's a niche market. Maybe someday.
Yeah.
I think certainly like dirt jumping would be beneficial for the impact. A lot of those dirt jumpers are hardtails, so
yeah, that totally makes sense.
It would help there. And we have there's a couple trials riders out there that rock Cushcore on their trials bike, and so there's other applications for sure.
You guys have like a pro team or just some guys that you sponsor or?
So yeah, so we're a small company. There's 4 of us total,
right?
And not that long ago there was 2 of us, right? So this last year we did really well, and we have international distribution. I mean, I was shocked at how big Europe is. Europe loves mountain bikes. It's crazy. They're about half of our business. And so having said that, we don't have like a budget really to pay teams to run our product, but
I personally don't know how necessary that is, to tell you the truth, man.
Well, I mean, what happened is that, initially, I think our first pro rider was Jared Graves. He was the early adopter, and he went through all the questions you just went through. Well, can't you make it lighter? Can't you, this and that? And then in the end, a month later, he's like, don't change a thing. I'm running it front and rear wheel. It's perfect. And then that sort of trickled out that first year. And then last year, we actually did sponsor teams with product. And specialized downhill team, Specialized Gravity, and their EWS team, Commensal 100%, Rocky Mountain, Yeti, Yeti was a big one too. Richie Rude rocks it.
Yeah, I mean, I
And
think pretty much anybody that's really like pushing the limits of their bike is running it at this
yeah,
point.
and then big one last year was Martin Mays. He had an incredible season, and he rides on Cushcore. And then so this year, all of those teams and more, and we'll be announcing all those partnerships. Expanded the track, et cetera. But we'll make a big announcement once those
Yeah,
teams
yeah.
are comfortable with announcing their rosters too,
Yeah,
because
totally. Yeah.
that's right. But yeah, there's a ton of pros that ride it, and then we do have kind of grassroots guys as well. Um, it's we call it an ambassador program, but it's kind of riders we like
Hmm.
and riders that want to run the system, and we help them as much as we can. Um,
Yeah, no, I honestly think that the way you guys are going about it is working. So why bother? I am in some cases I can understand the having the pro teams, and paying for all of that. In other cases, it's difficult for me. So I mean, you guys are small, dude. I totally get it, and I know some of those sponsorships are not cheap. So it's definitely probably more than what most people think of whenever they think about it. They're just
yeah, and I
thinking
mean, we're lucky enough to where it's not like they're deciding between pedal A and pedal B, right? Who gives them the most money to sponsor their race program?
right,
It's that they want to use Cushcore for a competitive advantage, and
right.
so we're in a lucky position at the moment that they want to use our product, and we're happy to support them.
So how's this made? So is like I don't know even how foam is made. I mean, is it like just I would assume it's some kind of liquid like poured into a mold or
Yeah,
something or
that's the simple way. Yeah, it's
yeah.
poured into a mold, and then when the material cools, it's crazy because there's a lot of engineering into that too. And Adam would be better to answer this
Right.
technically, but it's crazy because there's like a cool down, and they have to calculate like the properties of how that. So the mold is like oversized or undersized or shaped so that when the product cools, it gets to your specification, right? So
Right.
it's kind of a quick crazy thing, and we have basically two foam manufacturers that we work with,
Hmm.
um,
Is that like
and
stateside or overseas or
no, one is based out of Canada,
uh-huh.
and one is in Taiwan, but
Okay.
they're the Canadian company also has a facility in Mexico, so some of them are made in Mexico as well. Um,
Interesting.
but there's yeah, I mean, and that's where we're at now.
Yeah, I didn't
Again,
really think about that having to like shrink to the right size or like expand to the right size. That's interesting. How do
yeah,
they do that? Like, so like once they have that done, like, is there some kind of quality control that makes sure that
yeah,
it's like
yeah, yeah.
always coming out to the exact right size?
There's a quality control at the factory, and I mean, once they have the spec down, um, it's pretty consistent with that
Hmm.
machinery, and then we do a quality control here as well once the
Hmm.
product arrives. Yeah, because there's flash marks where the injector squeak inserts the liquid, but other small defects or whatever. But we do quality control here, and yeah.
Right on. So, why are you guys in Bend?
I mean, so I'm in Bend because I lived my whole life in Southern California, and I wanted to be somewhere, and my wife and I wanted to raise our kids somewhere that's more smaller town and more outdoor focused. Not that can't be outdoor focused in California, but
Yeah, yeah,
you
totally get
know,
it.
right here in town, it's small but not too small. And then Adam and his wife, they started Craft Moto in Durango, Colorado, but they just felt like, and then they moved for a bit to Austin, Texas, and they wanted to get back to kind of a mountain town.
Hmm.
but they thought they loved Durango, but it's kind of too small to run a business, and so Ben's kind of the ideal size. Also, Ben is you mentioned it before. It's like it just has this. The culture is like you know, very small business culture. There's lots of successful small businesses here. Lots of startups, a lot of outdoor industry.
I was surprised how many people were up there. Originally, I was going up there to meet with Project 321.
Right.
And then for whatever reason, it was like, I started looking at, well, who else is up in that area? And then it was like, oh, Evo Gimbals is up there. Schwalbe Tires is up there. Cushcore is up there. And I think there's a couple other I can't even think of right off the top of my head right now. And it was like, holy
Yeah.
cow, I totally didn't know that. I just knew Bend was a fun place to ride. I didn't know anything about the culture of the place. Great beers up there too. You're a beer drinker?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you got
it's hard not to be living here, that's for sure. I mean, I try not to drink too much beer just because it's easy to get fat, but
right. So I've
it's
heard.
almost impossible to resist when you live in a town that is, there's a brewery on every corner just about.
Yeah, the place itself too kind of really like it wasn't the way I expected, because I've ridden in Oregon before, but all the riding I did in Oregon was like Portland area, or I've been to like Eugene and some other places. I've driven up like 5 a million times, and so everything that my experience with Oregon was like this like super like Velcro tacky ground that's always kind of ferns and
Yeah.
these nice roots to jump off of all over the place and stuff like that. And then I got up there and it reminded me a lot of like the way I was explaining it to people, or I have been explaining it to people, is it's like Lake Tahoe and Sedona had a baby. It's just like, it's kind of like, because
Yeah.
it has this like deserty kind of look to it, but like some of the terrain that I rode on was like real similar to Tahoe, where it was like almost like a sandy kind of granite kind of ground instead of what I was expecting from what else I had seen in Oregon.
Right. I mean, we're high desert, and it's 10 minutes to the quote unquote mountains, and the majority of the mountain bike trails kind of start in like a plateau, I would say, and it's pine trees, but like you described, it's kind of the sandy base, a lot of lava rock mixed in. But as you get higher, you get more to that classic Oregon stuff. But yeah, we're high desert, and it's good and bad. I mean, the good part is that you know, all the rain falls on the Cascades before it gets here, right? So we're pretty dry and pretty sunny compared
Mm-hmm.
to the coastal Oregon. But also, as the season goes, the later we get into the season, you just keep going higher in elevation, and it just keeps getting better as the snow melts. Um, so yeah. I mean, and the majority of our trails here also are like really flowy and kind of serpentine and relatively smooth. But then you run into a patch of super sharp lava rock, and yeah, there's a pretty good variety of stuff. And
How long does it take the snow to melt there? Like in Tahoe, like basically, come like typically come May, end of May, like it's definitely melted enough that any trail system that we're usually on is
yeah,
available.
I mean, May, like the majority of everything is open, all the
Uh-huh.
but the higher elevation stuff, sometimes that won't melt until you know July, August. And
Yeah.
some of the sweet stuff, like Metolius and Flagline and all that stuff, is a little bit more high mountain. It's you know,
Because you guys
this
have a big mountain there too, right? Is it like Mount
yeah,
Bachelor, I want
we
to
have
say?
Bachelor. Yeah. They have a
Yeah.
bike park, and it keeps getting better every year. They're, I always describe it. They're like, I would describe it. They're like, I feel like 8 years behind Mammoth. The dirt's very similar to Mammoth Bike Park, and if you've ridden Mammoth, over the years they just keep adding pavers and wood ramps and clay, and it's pretty awesome now. Where not that long ago it wasn't that great, but and Bachelor's kind of on the same path, and I mean, it's 30 minutes from town here, easy drive, and so we do lots of laps at Bachelor too. It's fun. And I mean, shoot, that's a great place for Cushcore because the amount of lava up there is just for one, getting flats, but two, it's just choppy, chundery stuff, and with Cushcore, just it's sweet.
So I was wondering about that. Just yesterday I was riding with my buddy and he like nubbed some rock, and got like a little puncture, sidewall puncture, and it was pretty close to the rim where your product would be sitting. We use bacon to fix it. And I was thinking to myself when we were talking about earlier, like, does that Cushcore product kind of like get in the way of being able to use like plugs like that to fix your tire? Or
No, you should be able to use a plug, no problem. I mean, what we found, and I mean, we don't have proof, but we think that because you have this stiff sidewall, a lot of those sidewall tears are avoided because you will, you'll have that resistance against that impact on the sidewall. Instead, without Cushcore, the tire kind of ripples and as it's compressed, right? And that compressed will grab on that sharp rock and tear.
oh, that makes
So
sense. That totally makes sense.
I think we feel like it makes the sidewall tougher,
Uh-huh.
but then also you can plug your tire, and then worst case is like if you do have a catastrophic sidewall tear, basically you just ride out on the Cushcore because you're not sitting on the rim, and it's basically locking the bead on, so the tire's not going to come off either. It's not going to be a great ride, but like we described, you can limp back to the truck at least.
Yeah, one of my friends and fellow YouTubers actually did that on one of those videos earlier this year. And like he rode out. I mean, at the end of the day, he rode out, and that I think is it's definitely worth saying.
I mean, yeah. And the other thing is, I mean, if you have the technique down, you're comfortable with the technique, it's easy to just pull it out and,
put a tube in.
But like a sidewall tear, a tube's not going to help you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you can get around it. I mean, in Downeyville, for example, we had to use a couple goo packets inside of the tire.
Sure. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yep.
You can make it happen.
Some duct tape and zip ties.
Yeah, I've heard people say $1 works really good.
I bet it does. Actually,
$1. I'm like, I have no money. I'd have to try my ATM card in there or something like that. I'm like, who carries cash? Where you guys, especially on the trail? What's up with you guys, man?
Yeah. I've used like cardboard and that before, previous to Cushcore, but yeah.
Yeah, those goo packages are like perfect for it. They're like, because it's like that thick plastic. It's too fly of it, and the only thing is trying to get it to stay there while you get everything into place.
Yeah,
it's like please don't move away from there. But because I was thinking if you flatted completely, like say you didn't have a tube or you already blew through that or whatever on the Cushcore, like would you want to just put a couple of like zip ties around the wheel and the tire to kind of keep the bead from coming off?
I don't think you'd need to. I mean,
really?
Yeah, it's pushing pretty hard against that bead, and the bead should stay on. I mean, I've had it happen before, and I've ridden several miles on a Cushcore with no air in the tire, and I mean, there's been pro racers that finished their downhill runs and finished their stages in the EWS, and
it's crazy.
And then they make it to the transfer section, and they fix it flat there instead of stopping in their stage.
That's a big deal. I mean, definitely if you're racing, and there's definitely there's a racer that was like back in the 90s, and she like broke her freaking seat post in like the first mile of this race. It was somewhere in Colorado. I can't remember the girl's name. And she raced like 19 miles with no seat post. Could you imagine that?
No.
Freaking insane. I want to say she won too.
Yeah.
Like just insane. I put it on my website somewhere. I can't remember where I put it at.
Yeah.
Freaking just some people are just animals, man.
Yeah.
So you said you ride full suspension. What kind of bike you got?
I got a Santa Cruz Nomad.
Yeah. What made you choose that?
I had actually a friend, he's a pro rider, and he just said he recommended it, and then I got it and haven't looked back. I'm kind of primed for a new bike actually, so
what's got your eye?
Oh man, what doesn't? That's something. I mean, the bikes have gotten so good. They're all so good.
You were right across the pivot tent there at Interbike. Those
Yeah.
those bikes were being handed out like pancakes, man, or like candy or something.
Yeah, their booth was packed that whole time, and that's what I was gonna say is like the Firebird really is the 29er Firebird is. I think that's got my name on it.
Yeah, yeah. You ridden it? I take it. Or?
Yeah. I've ridden it a few times, and yeah, it's I kind of like a long travel bike. It's a little bit. It's definitely overkill for a lot of the trails here, but it's like you can have one bike and trail ride and hit the park.
No,
too.
I totally get it. I mean, that's my Bronson's 160 in the front and 150 in the rear, and it's definitely overkill for a lot of stuff. But like you said,
Yeah.
as long as a bike pedals well, honestly, I mean, I don't give a shit how much suspension's on it. Because if the suspension's working right, like, then what's it matter? You're not going through 170 millimeters like just riding on up the hill. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I always say, I mean, for me, I'm a slow climber anyway.
Right.
I mean, I always make it, but I'm not going to beat you up the hill. So I have fun going down. So
yeah,
I'll take that compromise to have that. But
yeah, no, I'm with you there, dude. Even when I was in my best riding shape, I was still like the slowest guy. It would just irritate the shit out of me. Like I would just be like trying my hardest just to kill myself to get faster, and like all my buddies would just be like, because they're riding with me, so they just get faster too, and be like, you guys are dicks, man. So, any other action sports? You do any other action sports?
Yeah, I mean, motocross. I grew up riding dirt bikes. And I love, all types of off-road two-wheel activities. So I like trail riding on a dirt bike, and I love motocross a lot. Used to race quite a bit, never like very good, like intermediate level, but I love it. And these days, not much racing, but I still love doing that, and mountain bikes and moto. That those are my loves.
So is Cushcore planning on to like get into any kind of other type of suspension, or just stick with kind of like what they're doing right now? Or
yeah. So for now, I mean, really, we're concentrating on being the leader in tire insert technology, right? So like I mentioned, we'll have some other cycling applications coming out really soon, and then with the target, like hopefully this year, we'll also launch into moto as well, which will be huge. I mean, we were just riding dirt bikes yesterday, and there's so much lava rock where we ride. It's just sharp and it's buried, so it doesn't move. And on a dirt bike, leading with that front wheel, having Cushcore in there would just be a game changer. Yeah.
So I never really rode moto. So I mean, are there like reasons that basically the same as mountain bikers, they want lower pressure? And
it's the same exact thing. It's the same thing. So that's what happens is that if you run high tire pressure, then you have this bouncy, basically like a rubber ball, right? So it's going to be a harsh ride, and you don't get as much traction. And low tire pressure is great traction, compliant tread patch, but it's easy to pinch flat and easy to ding your rim. It's the same issues, and even though the tires are much bigger and stiffer, the forces that you're transmitting are much higher as well. So you still have the same issues the same exact issues on a dirt bike that you do on a mountain bike. And
so I would make the assumption that the foam or whatever that you're using for that definitely is like, it's not the same foam that we're using.
No, yeah, it has to be re-engineered. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then there goes another 3 years of Adam's life.
Well, hopefully not. I mean, we're in that process, so hopefully it won't be like that. But and the other issue, all dirt bikes come standard with tubes, right? So that's another part of the equation we have to solve as well, because having that, Cushcore.
Oh, wait a minute. So dirt bikes aren't tubeless?
Correct.
Or is it?
They are not.
Is there like a tubeless option, or like just
there's
not
a
at
product.
all?
There's a product out there called Tubeless, and it's basically exactly like Schwalbe Procore. It's an high pressure inner tube inside, and then you have another the tire chamber on the outside, right?
Why haven't any of these companies like stands or something like that, like up to that? Like you would think that would be like a real simple.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's the same thing as us. Like, why would they not want to do that with the sealant and be able to like stop that from happening? Do you get flats a lot on dirt bikes? I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, and this tubeless product is pretty good for that, but it doesn't solve the lateral stability issue, and it's a pneumatic system, so you don't have any of the damping characteristics that like a Cushcore would, right? And I mean,
So
on
yours has
top,
to, like, did you guys have to come up with a different kind of? I guess I can't ask you too much about.
well,
Product
I mean,
that
yeah, it's not, it's too early to really
yeah,
describe, but
yeah.
anyway, we're working on it, and that's a target. So I
No,
mean,
that's really interesting, man. That's like super interesting to think about.
yeah, so we're, like, we got probably in the next month or so we'll announce a few, cycling products, and then hopefully, that the moto product goes well, and we can get out there this year, I hope.
So you guys, man, I had two questions now. I don't know which one I asked first. How about this? So you guys run around to a lot of the cycling events. I mean, is that kind of, you have a team that just goes constantly, or you just pick certain ones, or?
Yeah, the team is us. I mean, like I said, we're up to 4 employees. One of those is really kind of a full-time. He does shipping, receiving, amongst other things, inventory management, etc. So he doesn't really travel, but Adam, myself, and Kenny, we do everything else. A small company, you have to wear a lot of hats. And yeah, so this year I think we're going to like about 12 different events. Kenny and I are going to Cabda West, which is in San Diego, trade show, basically cycling show, in San Diego this following week. After that, Adam and Kenny are going to Core Bike in the UK, which is another kind of industry event. And then after that, we'll be at Frost Bike, which is QBP sort of summit. And then Sedona Mountain Bike Fest, Sea Otter, and it kind of keeps going on and
Yeah,
on.
just goes on.
We'll be,
So you guys
yeah,
stay pretty active as far as that's going. Then they're definitely
it's
getting around.
almost something every month. Yeah.
Huh? Is there potential for you guys to just like be like, are you guys trying to like work with like a manufacturer to actually like be installed whenever the bike's new?
Yeah, so yeah, that's one of our goals this year is to make some OEM partnerships. Yeah, so we're working on it. There's some, it's not really exactly that, but like transition bikes, they carry Cushcore in their store, right? So you can buy Cushcore from Transition, and then Gorilla Gravity carries it as well, and they'll outfit your bike with Cushcore when you order it. And so that's sort of the trickle, and eventually, yeah, that's what definitely we'd love to have that opportunity to work directly with OEM and have it be an optional equipment.
Have you ever heard anything about people having problems with their wheels, like their carbon wheels, like having like breaking or something like that because of the product being in there, or any kind of thing?
No. I mean, not because the product is in there. I mean, we can't eliminate all wheel and tire failures, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it can still happen, but it,
definitely nothing at this point linked to what you guys are doing. So.
Oh, well, no, for 100% for sure. If anybody has sort of a wheel failure, you'd have to think that it would be worse. It would have been worse without Cushcore in there. It's certainly not anything related to the product.
Yeah. No, I hear you there. So when you're doing all these events, do you have like wheels that people can take and demo or something like that? Or I mean, because you can't just throw your cassette on, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's really
I know.
difficult.
We when we first started, we tried that. We had about 12 different wheels and different cassettes and different axle widths and all this. And in the end, it was really tough because, for one, at a cycling event, if it's like focused around riding, people want to get out and ride. And we just found that people were like, yeah, maybe I'll try that. But the hassle factor of like, yeah, we can put these wheels on your bike. You can try it on your bike.
Yeah.
And there just wasn't that many people that actually went for that. And then just the fact of, you know, managing that and like the effort that it takes to have wheels and tires and cassettes and axles that fit every
Yeah.
bike is just kind of a little bit of a nightmare. And
I know
so,
for me too, you know, honestly, like my thought process would be like, well, what if this, let's just say you're handing them a carbon wheel and they don't have a carbon wheel, or you're handing them a rim that's maybe like if I was that consumer, I'd be thinking to myself, like, is this wheel different? And that's what I'm feeling compared to actually the Cushcore being in there.
Yeah.
So I mean, what does the product cost so that people know?
Yeah. So a set is, and that's typically how we sell it. It comes with 2 inserts and 2 of our air valves. You have to use our air valve. I should have one here, but the holes go laterally instead of this way, because the Cushcore would be on a traditional air valve. It would be sitting on top of the hole. So it comes with our air valves, two air valves, 2 inserts is $149. And then that leads into the other thing is like usually at a show, instead of doing the demo, we'll just kind of offer a special show price that kind of, if you're interested enough, this is like a deal you can't refuse. It's like at least, something to
Right on.
Go ahead and try it, right?
So you do have the ability to buy a single if for some reason, like your tire ripped off and you destroyed one or something like that.
Exactly.
You don't have to buy it.
So we sell singles, and that we call them basically replacements, because like we mentioned earlier, is that we want it to be, it's designed to be run in the front and rear wheel. But there is singles for replacements if for some reason you need that. And we do sell air valves in multiple colors. The kit comes with green ones, but we have black, red, and now like a turquoise that matches the Yeti team.
There you go.
Per their request. And
then we had a really interesting conversation about valve cores when I was up there at your office, and and I think it's worth mentioning to people, because I was like, well, why do you guys have green valve cores? Do you remember what your answer was?
Well, I mean, I would imagine the issue is once our product's installed, you don't see it.
Yeah.
So how do you know that this bike has Cushcore, right? So it's it's a marketing thing. That's our colors, green and gray.
Yeah.
And so the kits come with green. But if you want to change it, then you're welcome to purchase other air valves. And then I mean, we do have rim stickers as well that come in the kit. And they don't match every rider's bike, so we get it, but we do see a lot on like our social media. Guys put those rim stickers on that they're rocking Cushcore.
It's like when you said that to me about it being inside of the bike, though, it was like it totally resonated, because it was like, no, I totally get that now, because and then honestly, it also then stops the conversation too, where you're talking to some dude or your buddy or whatever, like you're usually looking at their bike and then talking about something from there. You know, and if you don't have a way to know that they're running Cushcore, then you wouldn't even start that conversation or have it.
Right.
So maybe seeing the valves green or the sticker on the bike, then at least kind of like prompts it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's why they're green. It's basically marketing, and that's our brand. I mean,
yeah, no, I mean, I think at least green's a good color, have like some weird one, like, I don't know, I'm gonna offend somebody if I pick a color, so I'll just keep my mouth shut there. So you said you're going down to Sedona this year. You stoked about that?
Yeah. So I'm super stoked, because it's cold here right now. And I mean, not that time of year Sedona's not super hot, but it's hotter than here, and the trails there are super fun. And we're gonna do like I said, we did this test with Motion Instruments, this data acquisition test, and we're going to repeat that, but it's going to be with some, well-known media outlets and likely a pro rider. So we'll have data from those individuals, and those each media outlet can make their own conclusions from the data. But yeah, it should be fun.
No, that'll be super exciting. Sedona was such a good time when I went last year. It was one of those things where when I got there, I was like, there's no way I'm not going to continue to do this. It was just really, it was like a smaller event. And I mean, I haven't been to Sea Otter, unfortunately. I didn't get a chance to go yet. And, but it was just really fun. It was really fun to like have all the vendors, and the people were just having a great time. And the trails are like right there. I know where Sea Otter is. The trails around that area are not fantastic.
No, I mean, that's the thing. It's like Sea Otter's fun for its own reasons. It's kind of a big, kind of hoopla, right? That's part of the fun of it, is so many people and so many vendors and this and that. And there's racing, but even the race courses aren't great, right? But Sedona is it's kind of a cool size. It's not too small, and it's centered around riding. I mean, that's why you go, is to ride and demo bikes and man, it's just a cool vibe there in that town.
I didn't even realize that there's not an entry fee if you don't want to ride the bikes.
Yeah.
You can just walk right in.
Yeah.
Like I showed up last year, and I mean, I paid for the entrance. I ended up just riding my bike the entire time. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know that. I didn't know you could just show up. Like, so if you guys are anywhere close to that, just go. You don't even have to pay. I mean, you can go camp somewhere or sleep in the back of your truck or something if you need to. But I mean, if you're close enough to day trip it, like you don't have to pay to rent the bikes. You can go walk around, talk to all the vendors, look at all the stuff, and I had a great time. They have music,
and then ride.
Yeah. So, have you done a lot of riding in Sedona before?
No, that last year was my first time there also.
What did you guys ride?
Oh man, I can't remember now.
Yeah.
But like close to, I guess that would be like the south side. Well, we did a little bit right from where the event center was. We did a loop there. I can't remember the trail names now.
Yeah. No worries. No worries.
And then we basically scheduled our flight home late Monday so we could ride all day Monday before coming back. And that we did a big ride that day. That was fun.
Do you guys have some kind of like shipping container that like takes all your stuff to the events? How does that work?
No, I mean, yeah. So that event, like from us to drive there is crazy. It's like,
right.
I want to say
like a day almost or something.
Oh, more. Yeah. It's like 18-hour drive or something. Yeah. So last year we just shipped our stuff via FedEx, basically shipped our pop-up and all our supplies. And,
so when you guys are going and taking your bikes, then you're just taking your bike on the plane?
No, that event we just demoed bikes from the shop down there.
Yeah, I mean, you had mentioned some of the other events that you like take your bikes and go ride or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if we can. I mean, there's a close one here is Mountain Bike Oregon. It's down at Oak Ridge, and then that's only 2 hours away from us. And
is that a good event?
It's super fun. I mean, the riding there's off the hook.
I've seen some stuff on YouTube that just look crazy there. What how would you explain that area?
Kind of classic Oregon mountain riding. You get I mean, you can ride. There's so much trail that it's like more than you need. Is there
any like trail names that are like that?
Alpine is like Alpine's the classic, and that's shoot, mileage wise. Oh God, I think if you do it from the very end of it, from the very top, it's probably 20 miles of mostly descending, and it's you're in like redwood forest and ferns to extreme exposure to shale rock to high speed, just flowy stuff. It's within the one trail, it's kind of got it all. And then there's other trails like that too that maybe aren't well known, but like Alpine's kind of the classic for Oak
How do
Ridge.
you do with exposure?
I'm good.
Yeah, I can't stand
Yeah.
that shit. That's friggin' I about lost my soul in Sedona, man.
Yeah. Well, okay. Now, having said that, there's some trails in Sedona that, there's that like, what's it called? White line or something
Yeah.
like that. No.
Dude, I
That,
get like the heebie-jeebies just watching videos of that freaking trail. Like I can't even watch them. It's
yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely some exposure there in Sedona, that's for sure.
There's a guy in Sedona. Let's see if I can figure out his name. I was just talking to him because he rides Cushcore. Oh man, I'm not going to be able to find his name. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll have to look it up for you. But he has videos of himself just ripping that crazy exposure stuff. He's insane.
So one of the guys is asking on the chat here, do you guys have, and I actually saw it earlier in the stream too, I forgot to mention it. Do you guys have something coming for fat bikes?
Not yet. One of the problems is that those tires are so big that the amount of foam, I mean, man, it just might be the weight actually could start to getting to be an issue. Oh, I found the guy's name. His Facebook is Simon Says Mountain Bike Skills.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, and what's his YouTube?
I have to check him out.
Yeah, you gotta look at his YouTube. He is.
Simon Says.
Yeah, Simon Says Mountain Bike. Look that up on YouTube. He's crazy. He's got some cool stuff. Yeah. So with the fat bikes, I mean, it's not out of the question, but so far we haven't, developed that because for one, it's a little bit of a niche, and then it's just like the design process of getting it so it still does something, but it's not too terribly huge and heavy. But we're rolling them out, and pardon the pun. and maybe someday but it's nothing that we're in development on yet. Not yet.
So it's definitely one of those things where it would need to be re-engineered, kind of like with the motor stuff, like completely re-engineered.
Yeah.
I can see that too, like cost wise. I mean, if you're having a lot more product, then it's going to change your cost as well. Like material, a lot more material in there.
Definitely.
Huh, that's interesting. What are some of the complaints that you hear?
I mean, kind of what we covered is like hard to install.
Yeah, that's probably
the weight, one. Right? And but I think like what we talked about is like, it's funny because we can install it no problem, and so we think it's easy. Now I know that's probably that's probably biased, but I would say that if you use the technique and it's not that difficult. I mean, for every kind of complaint, this thing's impossible to install, we get a guy that's like, oh, it was easy. So, runs the gamut. And, I don't have, the statistics on how many on each side of that scale, but we get comments on both sides. So, yeah, that's kind of it. And again, it's not a pool noodle.
Right. Yeah.
And once you see it and touch it, especially if you ride it, you'll realize it's not a pool noodle.
I could definitely say just touching it, like you definitely understand right away.
Yeah.
Like just by the consistency of the product, like you can tell. And then when you think about the shape and you go on, with all the other things that, we've mentioned, it's definitely, it all makes sense. It really does. And I think if a pool noodle was really going to be as good, I'm sure there's a friggin' million people out there that have tried it already. Yeah. And I doubt that they have come back with similar results. There's a really good question here in the chat that I wanted to bring up to you. And they were asking, what type of casing do you guys recommend with Cushcore? And is EXO okay to save weight, or should we still run double down?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to answer. The easy answer is yes. Run the lightest weight tire you can get away with, for your terrain and ability and riding style, right? But it's really hard to say absolutely run this, right? Because there's so many variables and personal preference. Now, having said that, like, it's the same question we get, like, oh, what's the tire pressure can I run? Well, that also depends. It depends where your starting point is. What do you run without it? And certainly most people can run, less with Cushcore than without it. And but if you're already running like extremely low, like 16 psi, you may not change your tire pressure at all. Like, that's pretty low.
And those guys must weigh like $120, dude. Because there's no way I could friggin' run. I know, 16.
But there's a lot of people out there that run extremely low pressures, and they're looking for those benefits, and it makes sense. It's just that once you get down that low, you probably won't change your tire pressure that much with Cushcore. Now, like you mentioned,
somebody like me, I'm running 30 right now is what I run front and back
with Cushcore.
Without, I actually don't have it in right now.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, yeah, because that's what that was what I was going to say. So without Cushcore, I used to run 30, and with Cushcore, I run 25, 24.
I'll be dead honest with you guys.
I weigh like 195.
I have the set of Cushcore sitting there right behind me.
Yep.
You can kind of see a little bit of it in the corner there, and I got them from you guys, and I was like, oh, well, as soon as my tires wear out or I puncture one, then I'll put it in. And I swear to God, the tires I have on right now are like, they're knock on wood. I don't know if that's actually good or bad because the Cushcore's not in there, but like they just aren't, they're not going away. So It's coming soon though. It's definitely coming soon because I have a brand new set of tires that I want to put on. I really want to try them out, especially with the weather that we have right now. And I also want to give my go at installing them after I've seen the professionals do it. Is the garbage can like 100% needed?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, well, not 100%, but it makes it a lot easier for two reasons. One is if you're trying to
let's back up just a second. I'm sorry. But let's explain for the people that are listening or maybe haven't watched your videos. So part of the way that you guys install is you say that it's easy if you have like just a regular old gray garbage can that, people would have like the can that you would put a keg in if you were having a big party.
That, or like, I mean, at my house, I just use like one of those 5-gallon paint buckets from Home Depot.
Oh yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah, okay.
So the whole thing, what you're trying to do is just the beauty of the large trash can is it brings it up to a comfortable place where you're not bent over, right? And then the other thing that it's doing is like without supporting the wheel, and you're basically the trash can or the bucket is supporting the wheel on the spokes. What that does is that when you're pushing down on the tire, you're not pushing down on the other bead. So like if you did it on the ground, you'd be kind of working against yourself because you'd be pushing on the opposite side bead that's touching the ground. So this is kind of isolating the bead from the ground, basically. That's why we like to use a trash can, and the trash can puts it up in a nice, so you're not bent over so far.
Right. So you just use a bucket though. That works too.
Yeah. I use a bucket at home. That's just because that's what's sitting there.
Yeah. And obviously, like if you were just sitting it on the ground, then it's like, you're either pushing your cassette all over the ground or the other side. Yeah, it's just kind of a pain.
Exactly.
Good times. So, which event are you looking forward to the most this year?
Crankworks.
Where's Crankworks at?
Well, Whistler. Yeah. I guess there's two that I'm looking forward to. Crankworks, Whistler, and then because it's been several years since I've ridden at Whistler, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm looking forward to more riding than working at Whistler because it is just awesome. And then the EWS at North Star.
Oh, okay.
Because this is, I don't know if they've had a round in the US before. Maybe some couple years ago, but anyway, it's close enough for us. We can go and we can see our teams race on Cushcore and cheer them on. And
I thought the Interbike that they did up there that was open to the public was really fun, and I'm sad to see that Interbike's not going to be around next year. At least next year they canceled it already.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so it would have been cool to have an event like that continuing, because I felt like it was really set up well, kind of like Sedona, where like the tents and the vendors are there, and there's like this great riding like right there.
Yep.
You know. So what is it about Crankworks that you just the like the train up there? That I've never been to Whistler, so.
Oh yeah, I mean Whistler. I mean,
Are you like one of those big jump guys? You hitting like the 40-foot
no, no,
tabletops?
no, no, no,
He's like, I'm
no,
not that good.
no. But I do like the kind of flow trails, and there's just so much variety of terrain, and it's just they've been at it the longest. So the park is just set up so good. The trails are so good, and there's a lot of riding there over a couple days, you're definitely going to get better because it's set up so well that you can progress and get comfortable jumping. And I don't do huge hits or anything, but
Mm-hmm.
but when you ride there, it feels like you are. So
Yeah, definitely. You feel like
yeah,
you're killing it, right?
and then there's some things you look at and you're just like, oh hell no, I'd never hit that.
Yeah.
Um, but guys do for sure, and it's a cool vibe there. It's been, oh shoot, man, I haven't been up there probably 5-6 years or so, and
How
but yeah,
far is that from Bend? I mean, that's
like
drivable, right?
10-hour drive. Yeah,
Oh wow, that's farther than I thought. It's like kind of way up there then.
yeah. You got to go all the way through. We're like in the center of Oregon, so you have to go half of Oregon all the way through Washington, and then it's about, I want to say, 3 hours from the border. So
Wow,
yeah,
I didn't realize it was that far.
yeah.
I was thinking it was like a day trip for me, so it doesn't sound like it.
No. I mean, you could power it out
Yeah,
probably,
be a long like 15-hour drive or something like that.
but yeah, for you'd stop in Bellingham and ride there.
Yeah, there you go, right? Tell you what, I used to drive up to Portland a lot for work, and I have like paid like enough freaking speeding tickets in Oregon to like learn my lesson finally. And now it's like I could tell you some ridiculous times that you might not believe in how fast I got from Sacramento to Portland, but I'm not doing that anymore because it's just too damn expensive. It's one thing getting the speeding ticket and paying that, but the other end of it is you can't do traffic school because it's out of state ticket, and then your insurance goes up, and now you're digging that for another 2-3 years until that goes away. So I'm really slow at like learning my lesson, so it took me a while, but now I'm like, I go to Oregon, it's like cruise control, just don't freaking mess around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No. So do you guys go from Bend? So Oak Ridge is pretty much the place that you go to ride the most if you're leaving town, or do you guys like head over towards like Boise or?
No, yeah, not too much. I mean, mostly it's Oak Ridge or up Hood River. That's great riding up there. But
where's
it's
Hood
good
River,
stuff.
like generally
Just
speaking?
north. It's like on the border, the Columbia. It's right on the Columbia River, right on the border of Oregon and Washington.
Oh, okay.
And it's only a couple hours from us. And it's got great riding there. The riding area is called Post Canyon, and yeah, really, really good, fun riding there.
What time of year is that event that you were talking about that's in Oregon? You said it was in Oak Ridge?
I want to say they do that in June and July. I think they do two, but I haven't checked this year. But yeah, it's like a midsummer type of event. Yeah.
And doesn't Ashland have some kind of event that they do too?
Yeah, well, they have racing, and I'm sure there's some event there too. That's not too far from us either, but that's like 3 hours south.
Yeah.
And but it's been a while since I've ridden there. Also, that's fun too, though.
Yeah, I thought they had, because they have a lot of like feature, like wooden feature kind of stuff built there, don't they?
Yeah, and jumps and this, and I mean, jumps where you wouldn't expect it, like the trail. I think it's called Jabberwocky or something. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. It's pretty, not crazy steep, but like steep for sort of a flow trail, and some pretty decent hits on it for sure.
Yeah, and there's some kind of event that they have down there. I remember seeing like the ads come up every year on MTBR, and it's like like a 3-day thing where it's like camping and beer and like and riding bikes. I guess that city's kind of like set up where like the trails kind of like end back in town or something like that.
Yep, exactly.
So
You end up right in downtown, and their little downtown has a lot of character and breweries, and it's killer spot for sure.
Kind of like Downeyville in that manner. I wish Downeyville had a little bit more than like the pizza shop.
Yeah.
The one thing I do like about that place is whenever I go there, I have no cell signal, so I don't have to deal with any of the world.
Yeah.
which is like, it's like a double-edged sword, you know. It's like on one hand, you're like, you can't text your buddy and be like, hey dude, I'm already down here. I think I'm gonna, go back to the campsite. It's like, nope. We actually have to see each other to make conversations.
Yeah, I know. I love Downeyville. It's cool spot. Little gem there for sure.
So you guys are thinking about launching something new this year sometime, and that's probably going to be the big revelation for the year, and then just continuing kind of banging out all the events. And
yeah, exactly, and just spreading the word and keep pushing the message that it's it's a performance enhancement. It's more than just rim and flat protection. And just keep hammering away at that, and then work on the moto side, but get out there and hopefully ride a lot and talk about Cushcore.
You said you guys are shipping internationally now.
Oh yeah. So, I mean, we have distribution all over Western Europe, Netherlands.
So you have some kind of like warehouse there or something like that, or like some kind of third-party
at our
company
facility. Currently what the way we're set up is that, the product is made elsewhere and it's shipped here and just inserts. We package it here with the valves, and then we do all the shipping from here in Bend, Oregon. And when it's a distributor order, obviously they're going out by the pallet, but also if you order on our website, then we're sending the individuals, orders from here as well.
So the best way is like just go to cushcore.com. You can order it right off the website and you're good to go.
Cushcore.com, buy now, a little tab over there. There's also a dealer locator of known Cushcore dealers, and like I said, there's at least in the U.S., we're with QBP, BTI, and KHS are distributors. So, I mean, any bike shop can order it for you. It's easy, but certainly you can order direct from us as well.
Do you guys sell on Amazon too, or no?
We are on Amazon. That's been a learning curve.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it's crazy. That's a whole man. I had no idea
what's different about that.
Well, okay. I mean, a couple things. It's like anybody can sell your product, right, on Amazon. So you're kind of competing against yourself. And then you have to police it a lot because somebody can, undercut you, right, and sell it at a discount. But there's clear, if you want to any product, there's like the thing called a MAP, minimal advertised price, right? And if they violate that, then we need to tell them that's basically you're not a authorized reseller and you're violating our MAP. So we find these guys, and a lot of the guys like selling on Amazon, it's not even a bike shop, it's a guy out of his garage or something, and where are you even getting our product? And so
fell off a boat, dude.
the real issue with that for us, it's not that they're selling at a discount. I mean, that's one issue, but the issue is that we want to make sure that the product and the brand is represented accurately.
Right.
And when it's, out of our hands, that's where it gets tricky but yeah, but just it's still good. Amazon's still good, and but we're learning on that.
It's interesting. I can't remember. There was somebody else I was talking to a couple weeks ago, and they had a similar story with Amazon where they were like, I want to say they ended up just pulling it from Amazon altogether, where they were like, we just can't do it.
Well, yeah, and Amazon takes a big chunk of, they have a big commission, I guess you want to call it. So
they got to get their piece.
Yep. So, but that's why Bezos is.
So it's best for anybody out there, if they want to pick it up, to either go to one of your distributors or easy enough to just go to your website, fill out whatever form it is, and get it in the mail.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you just order it. It's just like buying any product. You just click on it and order what you want. We even have sealant and rim tape for sale on there that we don't really make any money on. It's just we want to make it convenient if you're like, setting up a new wheel or changing an old tire, that maybe it's time to refresh your tape and sealant also. So we just want to make sure that you can get it all there in one go.
That's cool. Do you have like a single package, or is it like you just like little add-on items?
No, just add on. Yeah.
Right on.
I mean, that we've talked about that, and I think eventually we'll do it, is like maybe develop our own sealant and just include it in the package, but we're not quite there yet.
Is there any kind of problem with sealant and like the material, like or any issues that you could foresee, like with a certain sealant, like deteriorating your insert or something like that?
No. In fact, we've done a lot of testing where we basically bought all the sealants and took a section of Cushcore and put it in a bucket with the different sealants and watched it over 6 months, and nothing happened. No growth, no weird deterioration, no anything. It's a closed cell foam, so it's impervious to liquid. Even if the Cushcore gets a tear in it, that there's no holes. So anything is compatible. Yeah.
I don't know. There's probably a better Adam question, but maybe you can. What is closed cell foam?
That's a better Adam question.
Yeah, we'll let that one go.
Basically, it's there's no holes, right? There's no air bubbles. Like a pool noodle has air bubbles, right?
Right. Okay.
So the
I can picture that in my head. So like it's just basically like a dense foam is what it is.
Yeah. There's no air pockets to pop, right? So or absorb, right?
Right. Is there any kind of manufacturing defect kind of warranty or something like that, or you guys probably don't have to worry about it because you're packing it yourself? So I would imagine you'd see anything as you're putting it in the box.
I mean, so that's our we check every unit, right, as it goes into the box because we're packaging it. But if there has been, we're basically, honestly, like if you call Cushcore, probably I'm going to answer the phone. And if you have some issue, like we really want to support our customers. And if it is an issue, we usually can take care of it. Like I can think of one where it was like on the Cushcore, if you've seen it, it has these channels, and the channels are designed there to allow air and the sealant to migrate to both sides of the insert. And we had one that the way it was packaged, it was folded right at that channel, and so it was like the product was creased, and it probably would have worked, but I understood the customer. He's like, I just bought this product and it's got this crease. It looks like I'm worried it's going to tear. Probably would have been fine, but we just sent them a new one. We don't really have like a official warranty or anything like that, but case by case, if it makes sense that give you
guys a call and then go from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right on, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate you taking time out of your Sunday to sit down and chat with all of us up here. I'm sure everybody. Oh, here's a good question, actually. I'm gonna ask that too, but I do really appreciate you coming by and sitting down and talk with us, because it's really informative. And I think that if you have the time or whatever to actually hear, to hear about the product, and more than like the pool noodle kind of idea, it's really logical. It really makes sense. And it's like, I'm kicking myself in the rear end for waiting for my tires to wear out, but I also know I'm probably going to be that guy that has like the 2-hour session that doesn't want to freaking.
Well, and I get it, Robert. Like, it's more fun to ride the bike than to work on it for sure. So
Right.
I get it. But yeah, get them in there.
So somebody asked, what about storage? Does it matter temperature or moisture or anything like that?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they,
I mean, yeah, it's like any, I guess a tire would, if you get it way too cold, there could be an issue. But I mean, really,
yeah,
there's no,
or way too hot. Yeah. Like don't
yeah, there's
store it
too
in your
hot, too
attic for
cold,
like
or
6 months and expect it to be perfect. Right.
right. I mean, just basic logic with that. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's no real guideline. It's the material's super durable. So
Right on.
yeah.
Well, like I was saying, dude, I truly, truly appreciate you coming and hanging out with us and talking to me about the product. For all you guys that are still in here listening, please remember to subscribe and support. Let's see how many likes are on this thing. We only have 49. Oh, we have more likes than we have people watching right now. So I can't use my normal spiel about, come on, guys, seriously. But I'm sure out of the 43 that are still here right this second, you guys can hit the thumbs up button. That'd make me happy, because I like being happy. So I really appreciate everybody that threw up a super chat while we were talking. I know sometimes I miss you guys. I can't like do the personal shout outs or whatever, but really, really appreciate the support from all of you guys. Those of you guys that are just watching and or listening later on the podcast, I totally, truly appreciate that, even if that's the way that you support the channel. If you guys noticed, I got a new mic. Those of you guys that don't follow me on Instagram probably didn't know that, but I got a new mic. And the reason that I have this microphone and that you guys can hear the awesome baritone in my voice right now is because of the people out there on Patreon and all of you guys that throw up the super chats and all that stuff. Pretty much everything that I get cash flow wise from this channel goes back into the channel or into my belly in the way of beer. So I definitely appreciate that, because I definitely like drinking beer and I also like doing this YouTube channel. So keep that going, guys. Want to also say about iTunes the other day. I went on there and I was just searching for an MTB podcast, and I noticed it like gave this list of all these other mountain bike podcasts, and mine didn't show up. So what that comes down to is I need more of you guys to write reviews. So if you guys can do me a favor, like open up iTunes, search the Biker Bar, write a review about the podcast. If you enjoy it, give it 5 stars. If you don't enjoy it, don't write a review. It doesn't matter. So once again, I just really appreciate Cushcore and Dan, taking the time to come here, hang out with us. I want all you guys out there to remember one thing and one thing only. It only takes a bike to be a biker. So get out and be one.
Cheers.
Right on. Let's see here.